Good Friday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock, time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. Things starting to ramp up with NFL free agency. Combine will get underway next week. We will be there with our show live Tuesday and Wednesday from Radio Row on the Combine in Indianapolis. And we're going to talk plenty of Browns draft prep, free agency. We begin, though. Deshaun Watson was on the Q with Quincy Avery. Quincy Avery is his personal quarterbacks coach. An internet radio show discussed a number of topics, and including how the offense is going to kind of come together. I think it was just putting in the work after a lot of high expectations generated by the media. Take it personally when I look at people saying I fell off. They know how good I am. For me, it's just go ahead, get to work every day, not let stuff bother them. And again, this is Deshaun Watson talking to his personal quarterback coach, kind of an informal thing on internet radio. Feel like we have the team and the people once we get everything in place, meaning the offense tailored around him, that this offense will be rolling. Let's welcome in G. Bush from 92.3 The Fans Barbershop, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Again, you kind of get the sense Deshaun Watson wants to get back on the field and get things rolling with an offense that is tailored around his skill set.
And I think they will get back to rolling. And I think one of the things I take away from that comment you said is I love when people underestimate me because, you know, it kind of brings me and drives me to the next level. And I think that's a good, healthy dose of that for Deshaun Watson will be great. We know how much talent Deshaun Watson has. And I'm going to be honest, we've gone into a couple of seasons here for the Cleveland Browns. 2019, I can remember where we had Odell and Jarvis and Freddie Kitchens and Chubb and all those guys, and we really didn't do anything. Then we came back out again in 2021. We said, hey, in 2020, we made the playoffs. We were looking to be on that trajectory. We started off the season playing the Kansas City Chiefs. We looked like we had the Chiefs beaten that game, and they came back and won that football game. And then we obviously know what 2021 looked like. Baker got hurt. Everything looked different. So we've had expectations of where people are talking about the Cleveland Browns being in the Super Bowl. People have been talking about the Cleveland Browns being one of the better offensive teams and the talent they've had. They haven't lived up to those expectations. And so I would like an offseason where you don't expect much from them. And, you know, right now they finished in last place. They are, when you look at all the power rankings and all of the, the magazines for preseason in 2023, Browns are nowhere in the top 15 on any of those categories. So it's great. Now you can go back to work and guys can get back to work and start, grinding and doing what they need to do because this team is a team with talent. We've talked about that for the last 4 years, but this is also a team that is grossly underachieved. And Deshaun Watson, I like the fact that he gets a chip on the shoulder. You underestimate when people do that because I think that's what they need to have him propel himself to a great year. A lot of people are saying you ain't no good. A lot of people is laughing and joking about your contract. At the end of the day, you get an opportunity to come out and prove that you're still one of the best quarterbacks. And all of those people will have to shut up if you put up numbers. And that's the great thing about football. Media can talk, you can walk. Walk the walk, and you ain't got to worry about nobody saying nothing. And I think he'll have a great year this year.
All right, same conversation. Again, that was with Quincy Avery, the Q with Quincy Avery. He is Deshaun's quarterback coach. They talked about Drew Petzing, quarterback coach, leaving. And Watson said, I trust Kevin and AVP will still be in the room. We'll be able to have two guys who understand what I want and be transparent about the situation is helpful. I love being coached hard and having a coach get on my ass. I know how great I am, so being able to have them in the room will do that. There was some thought Avery might be the quarterback coach. He did say that will not happen. Along those lines, he also said the aggressiveness of how we approach this season will be different because they didn't know how long Jacoby Brissett was going to be the starter, so they couldn't really tailor the offense around Deshaun Watson. All those are very, very fair points, G. Bush. So none of that exists this year. It is his offense, full off season. You expect a whole lot better. At least I expect a whole lot better.
Oh, listen, me and you on the same page. Everybody, the expectation level up here, the wins were here, the play was here. This next year, everything goes up a notch, right? There's no more excuses. Kevin Stefanski, I tell you, got 6 games. When they come out these first 6 games, no longer can the Cleveland Browns come out and say, ooh, that game is going to come back to haunt us. We really should have had that. The special teams, no, we're not going to hear that. Ooh, we would have had that game too. If it wasn't for a couple plays, breakdowns, and the defense, we'll fix that. We'll clean that. No. We're not trying to hear that. And especially on the offensive side of the football, you come out and, 200 yards, 250 yards total offense. You're kicking field goals still. No one's going to want to hear that because you've had time. Everybody's been there 4 years. The coaching staff's been there. You got the quarterback. You got the 6 games out of the way. You had a full off season. You're going to have all OTAs. What is your excuse? There is none. We're going to see exactly what they're made of, and they're going to get an opportunity to do it. And guess what? And when the season starts, we'll, all that 11-game suspension stuff and all that rest of that other stuff, that'll be in the rearview mirror. We trying to figure out what we're doing from now until 2023. And I think that the one thing he said, that pressure will be on them because that's the group of people that we're going to be looking at specifically. We've changed a lot of areas. Van Pelt, we still got Stefanski. We still got Deshaun Watson. Like I said before, get together, go camping together, hang out, watch movies, go out and fish together. I don't care what you got to do. But y'all come up with a game plan that you are confident in that accentuates the talents of Deshaun Watson and is aggressive. Everything has to be aggressive. I want aggressive downfield. I want aggressive how we attack our game plans. I want aggressive and how we continue to put the ball in the air or we continue to put the foot on the gas when we're still winning. Think about this. When the last time you seen the Cleveland Browns go away on somebody and is up 12, 14 points and put a team away and still keep putting up more points and they up 30, 40 points? I ain't seen it. I'm 41. I ain't seen it. That's the type of offense and aggressiveness that we got to learn to still play with. And I like what he's saying. Hey, get it done.
All right. Along the lines of Deshaun Watson, let's talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson. There are still all kinds of questions about Lamar Jackson. Will he still be a Raven due to that contract holdout? And also how Deshaun Watson's contract affected that. This is the ESPN crew on Get Up this morning.
I can kind of see his point, right? I mean, Deshaun Watson's never been MVP. Lamar Jackson, have never caused any issues off the field. What do you think, Kmart?
No, I think Tim makes some reasoned arguments for a franchise. But it's not Lamar Jackson's problem that the Browns gave Deshaun Watson a deal that is an NFL outlier, and you could argue could be one of the worst, if not the worst, NFL contracts ever. Lamar Jackson, his resume, he's done more than Deshaun Watson. And I understand why a team would not want to give up and say, fine, we'll just give you a fully guaranteed contract. The problem that I see is a lot of teams feel like it's too much. I don't want to do that. We can find a quarterback elsewhere. But then at the end of the season, it's always the teams that have very good quarterbacks that have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And the price of QBs is going to keep going up and up and up. At some point, somebody else besides Deshaun Watson is going to get a fully guaranteed contract.
G-Bush, she just argued the reason why you give Deshaun Watson that contract, because the price of quarterbacks is going up. The only teams that are playing at the end of the year are ones with elite quarterbacks, which is why the Browns went out and did that. And by the time his 5 years are up, there's gonna be like 5 or 6 contracts that are like Deshaun Watson's. The Browns were ahead of it.
She was brilliant. She is brilliant in arguing against her own talking point. And that's what it is at this point. It's a talking point. You see, sometimes when you're on national TV or when you do these interviews, I try to be as transparent as possible and tell you how I feel. People say, that's a knee-jerk reaction. I leaned into it. I said, I'm the Duke of knee-jerk. What are you talking about? Because some games I'll be hot because they don't do what they're supposed to, and I really like enjoying the Browns winning. So, yes, I'm going to say some things that are in the moment. But here's what we're looking at here. Why is she said it perfectly. How is that the worst contract in the history of the game when at the end of every single year, the teams that are perennial in the playoff have the best quarterbacks, right? If you ask before the trade, before any of the off-field stuff, was Deshaun Watson one of the best quarterbacks in the league? Yes, he was. Also, you had to make a choice on Baker Mayfield, who was the first overall pick. So, yeah, you might have had to pay him $35 million because he wanted an extension. The problem is this. Everybody thinks that they're so great. And I want the Baltimore Ravens to do one good thing. Listen, go let him walk. I'm just going to give him, let him walk. Go ahead and do it. See, y'all done got lazy. People have been getting lazy and cocky with this. Everybody that has these generational type quarterbacks really feel like it's easy to go in the draft and get one until you don't got one, right? Let's look around. I mean, Steve Young and Joe Montana, they were great back to back. I'm sure, and you got Bill Walsh too. So I'm sure you felt that was really easy to get you a quarterback until you had the Jeff Garcias of the world. Until you had them guys trying to, you're looking around for a quarterback. Go ahead. You got lucky with Flacco. Then you got Lamar Jackson. I suggest you get rid of him if you don't like him, because if you don't like him, I'll take it in the AFC North, because it's doggone hard to get a quarterback, especially if you ain't really drafted in the top 5 or 10. Not to mention you didn't put your whole offense around the guy. You built the whole offense. And I'm going to ask the Baltimore Ravens, I don't understand why you got rid of Hollywood Brown. What for? Because you didn't want to pay him? I'm confused. You have Lamar Jackson. You don't want him to run that much. But then again, you don't give him receivers so he doesn't have to run that much. I'm confused at what you're doing. I remember, I'm young enough to remember when you had Vinny Testaverde coming out there. I remember when you had Tony Banks. I remember when you had some of these guys, and I was Kyle Bowler. I was there. Go ahead and get cocky. It's easy to say, oh, we could go get another one until you can't find another one. And I'm waiting for the Pittsburgh Steelers to have that happen too. Big Ben is gone. I guess. I'm just going to say it's harder. It's harder than people want to let on, and the Browns did exactly what they were supposed to do. If you ain't got the dude, you better move and find heaven and earth, move heaven and earth to get him. And when you got him, put talent around him, and then you may be lucky enough to be in the mention with Mahomes and Burrow and Allen, because you got to be 2 or 3 to go to the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl anyway. I don't think these people realize that.
All right. I mentioned next week, NFL Scouting Combine underway. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, out in Indianapolis. To preview that, NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah had a conference call today. He was asked who would fit that might be available for the Browns and would fit nicely into new defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz's system.
Schwartzy likes to get outside and let those guys rock and roll and really get off the ball. So when you look at where the Browns are picking, second round, pick number 42, if you're looking for edge rushers that have, kind of big time juice. Oh, gosh, I know one of them off the top of my head as you go to Iowa State, and they have, a premier player in Will McDonald in terms of burst and athleticism. He's a little bit undersized, 241 pounds. We'll see what he weighs there, but he can really get off the ball. He can win with spin moves. He can win just turning the corner. But burst and bend is his calling card. And I really like Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Kansas State. He's kind of right in that range for me, too. He can get off the ball. He can win with his hands. He had to play a lot inside the tackle and kind of a 4-eye there on the inside shoulder of the tackle, so he didn't get as much runway consistently. But when you widened him out and gave him a runway, he was pretty dominant and had a lot of production. 8 career forced fumbles for him, 8 in the last 2 years. So those guys, to me, would be good fits.
And, G. Bush, those are guys to listen out for, because guys that can get around the corner, you pair them with Myles Garrett. Okay, pick your poison.
Yeah. There's a couple of guys that we were talking to a draft analyst on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I asked him, is there a situation where this class of edge rushers is a little bit deeper than the defensive tackles? Right now, we assume that the Browns are going to go strictly defensive tackle. For me, it's very difficult for me to find a defensive tackle that is an impact player on 3 downs, even if you're a first-round pick, unless you're like the number 1 or number 2 pick. So I don't know if the Browns have an opportunity or want to be that patient, because I don't know if they feel that those guys can help them now. But when it comes to edge rushers, that's a little bit different. I might not be asking my edge rushers to be in the game 2-3 downs. They might be on the 3rd down. You got Alex Wright. He may be a 2-down guy. You can move Isaiah Thomas in, move 2-down guy, kind of rotate those. But the edge rushers, there's a couple of guys that may be on the board, and you talk about the deepness of it. Will McDonald from Iowa State, like him a lot. They have him graded high. Lucas Van Ness from Iowa, really rated high. I like his motor. People talk about him as being a sneaky first rounder. And then you got Felix Ananudike out of Kansas State, is another guy who has that type, that bend. And then there's more of a traditional guy like Zach Harrison, who we're familiar with at Ohio State. It all depends on how much Zach Harrison is going to run. If Zach Harrison runs in the 4.6, 4.7 range, I think he'll be in the 2nd or 3rd round. But he may move up at the end of the first half if he runs in the 4.5 range. 275 pounds, 6'6", 6'7". Nolan Smith is another guy who is an edge type guy for Georgia. And so there's a lot of different guys that they have here. I think the edge the edge rusher is a place where I think the Browns can really find some value for what they want to do, and maybe a 3rd down guy. I see them using their 2nd round pick because of the depth on a defensive end. I see defensive tackles coming in either free agency or a trade, and I see wide receivers coming via free agency or a trade.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll take a look at how the Browns, with limited cap space, might be able to create some. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. So CBS Sports, how 10 teams with little cap space can help themselves. Browns were 9 of the 10, and they have cut candidates: Jakeem Grant, Joe Haig, who's owed $2 million and played 1 snap. Defensive tackle Jordan Elliott. They have extension candidates: Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Grant Delpit. They can also restructure the contract of Deshaun Watson, Denzel Ward, and Myles Garrett. So there's a lot of ways they can create cap space. G. Bush, I do not think, unless Jordan Elliott does not show anything, I think they're going to want to see what Jim Schwartz can unlock with Jordan Elliott. That's a guy I'm interested to see.
Some of this is, you can save a little bit of cap money in one or two ways. You know what the free agents like Deron Payne want. You know what they want. You know what Hargroves want, right? You know Hargraves wants a big-time contract. So you know how much Jordan Elliott is worth, right? You know he's $2.7 million right there. If you're looking at it, you say, if I could get something, if I can coach up somebody, if I can get somebody to take another step, then you won't need to go out and get a big-name defensive tackle. You may need, instead of 2 D tackles, you say, give me 1 defensive tackle. I hope Perion Winfrey makes the next step. I hope Jordan Elliott turns his career around. I hope that I can now get something, and maybe I could get something out of an edge rusher like Alex Wright, who may go from a rotational guy to a possible starter. So you look at those situations where you got a new defensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator has to go in and assess one thing. Was it scheme? Was it talent? Or was it a case of, you just didn't have the guys that you need to run what you need to run? So he may think, I can come in and put my defense in. Every coordinator thinks that their defense can turn people around. It happens all the time in college. When you go from, when a new defensive coordinator comes in recruiting, you can't turn around and recruit 12 new defensive linemen and 5 linebackers and corners that go from running zone to playing man-to-man coverage. No, you just have to spend that offseason coaching guys up and teaching and technique and what you want them to do. And if you can get them to step up to that and play a little more consistently in what you want to do in a better scheme, you can improve defenses. And Jim Schwartz has done that wherever he's gone, taking a medium defense or to a bad defense to average to above average to good in 1 year. So those are things that they could be running. Those are things that you can be doing. And I think that you want guys to do, to make those changes and do what you need to do. Now, I don't know about the extensions. I think you make, Donovan Peoples-Jones has to prove it to me one more year. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones looks a lot better if you have a DeAndre Hopkins with Amari Cooper. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones look a lot better. I think the more you add, if you're able to add something to that, he looks a little better, but I think you had to prove it another year. And, here's another thing about the Deshaun Watson thing. If you didn't have Deshaun Watson, you would probably have Baker Mayfield because you signed him $35 million. So I get that, it's a running joke right here. Would you rather be the Browns or the Las Vegas Raiders? I'd rather be the Browns because the Vegas Raiders don't believe they got a quarterback and they need to find one with aging talent all the way around.
Yeah, no, and again, so 35 relative to 45, it's a trade-off. You were going to be paying a quarterback at least $35 million.
Regardless.
And I think you probably got better value with the one you got. I'm going to take that leap of faith with Andrew Berry in that front office. All right, before I let you go, Daniel Jeremiah, again from the pre-combine media availability, talking about a wide receiver who's been linked to the Browns in the second, third, fourth round range. Tyler Scott from Cincinnati. Here's Jeremiah on Tyler Scott.
Tyler Scott is, we're just talking about speed. That's speed. Like, that's legit big-time speed on the outside. And what I love about him is when the ball goes up, as fast as he is, he gets faster. He's fast after the catch. You can use him on jet sweeps. He's got, he's got reliable hands. The one thing it's normal with a lot of fast guys is just gearing down, getting in and out of cuts. That's a little bit more effort there, but a pure vertical receiver. I think he's the grade that I gave him is a day 2 grade. So second, third round, I think is where he goes.
And G. Bush, that's kind of one of the next evolutions of a speed guy. If you can get in and out of your cuts quickly, then you're looking at a guy that probably has first-round talent.
This for me, there's 3 guys I'm interested in. Jalen Hyatt, he won't be there. Receiver out of Tennessee. The day 2 guys, receiver out of Houston. His name escapes me, but that kid from Cincinnati. I am telling you, I'm walking to the podium, and that's the pick I would take if I needed to take. If you told me, G. Bush, I got a gun in your head, who you taking? I would take him today. And the reason is Daniel Jeremiah just said something that was, evident when you turn it on. Like, you're just like, he's faster than everybody. And it's by a large amount. Like, he tracks the ball well in the air. He's able to catch the deep ball. He runs away from people effortlessly. And it's the top level speed. I encourage everybody go home, get your armchair quarterback on, and go check this kid out in YouTube. And I'm telling you, he's running away from everybody. And it's exactly what you need. It's not a sports. It's not a Schwartz move. He can catch the football. He can actually move around. He won't drop the rock. And he can move. He's a football player, not a track guy impersonating a football player. He's a football guy. I encourage people, go out, check him out on YouTube, and I'm telling you, you'll come away saying that's the deep threat that the Cleveland Browns need to get. And if it was up to me, I would run to the podium and take him in the second round. I would. I think I could find some other guys in other places, coach some guys up. but I would move with that as my pick moving forward if we could get him.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Appreciate it.
All right, G. Bush, make sure you check him out. 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, Saturday mornings, 8:30 till noon. You can also catch him Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show Monday through Friday. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll take a little bit deeper look at Tyler Scott and some of the draft-eligible wide receivers. Lance Roslin with a film breakdown of some draft-eligible wide receivers the Browns might be interested in. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us. Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns here on Sports for CLE. We turn our attention to film breakdown, and we're going to take a look at the wide receiving core that will be available in the draft combine. Underway early next week. Let's welcome in Lance Roslin from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Whenever we talk film breakdown, we talk to Lance. Lance, these are all guys that figure to be available when the Browns are drafting even as late as the third round.
Yeah, I'm assuming that, they're going to shore up their defense with that second-round pick, but you never know how those things go. There are lots of receivers that fit the kind of the mold they need, an inside slot guy who's twitchy and sudden. A lot of guys from rounds 3 to 7 that they can get there. So it'd be interesting to see who they go for. All
right, let's take a look. First guy we're going to take a look at, a guy that we heard about during the Senior Bowl, Tank Dell, Nathaniel Tank Dell, 5'10", 163 pounds from Houston. And the first clip we're going to see kind of shows you a versatile guy, does some things in the return game that are very good as well.
Well, yeah, he had huge production at Houston his last 2 years, over 2,700 yards receiving, 29 touchdowns. He's a small guy. He's extremely sudden and twitchy, a word that, you hear a lot, but guys who are very hard to tackle, very hard to touch. He's not a great route runner. What he is, he's a ball and space guy. So you're talking jet sweeps, quick screens, things like that. This second video is he's very good. He plays on the outside in Houston a little bit too, so this is going to be a great that second clip shows him attacking the outside and then running a slant. Again, a punt return. He had a number of punt returns for big yards. Again, he makes that first guy miss. This is something he does both in the return game and when he catches the ball. Again, this route, he runs down the red zone. It runs a really good route, pushing the guy's outside shoulder and then putting his foot in the ground and running that slant. Again, very sudden, very twitchy, a guy who's incredible in space.
Yeah, and one of the things that you see there, the thing that we've talked about on that route with the suddenness, that is the type of route that you throw a 3-yard completion and he turns it into a 10, 11-yard gain.
Well, again, a lot of these guys that I think will be available from rounds 3 to 7, these are the guys that get those easy yards. We talked about last week, those easy yards. Those are the yards the Browns need to get. So this guy is the best at that. He'll catch a bubble screen, a quick screen, an RPO slant, and he'll get a bunch of yards. And that's what the Browns need. Browns need to get easy throws, easy catches, some cheap yards. Everything they get is earned. They need some cheap yards to keep that offensive flow going.
The next guy we're going to take a look at, 5'11", 195-pound wide receiver from Cincinnati, Tyler Scott, will be wearing number 21 in the video we take a look at.
So this guy's an inside-outside guy. He can very good in the slot. Again, very good production this last year. Again, can play, as I said, inside and outside. He gives Deshaun Watson a great compliment to Amari Cooper and Peoples-Jones. He can work the slot. So here's a classic example. He's just going to run an RPO glance or slant route off play action here. And the thing I like about this is he's an elite speed guy. He's a 4.29 40 guy. So again, easy yards, get the ball in space. Very productive, comes from a very good program perspective, so he knows what he's doing. Just like him in space, I think this guy will be available in later rounds. I really like his speed.
Yeah, and you can see it. 4.29, he has a shot at reaching the elite levels at the combine as far as the speed goes. If he does that, he could move up. But in that 4.2 low is where the high end, the lowest fastest marks in the combine are. I believe it's 4.22 is now the lowest in the combine. So he is within striking distance of that.
Well, again, he gives you that. And all these guys, they're very good in space, and all the routes they need to run, they're athletic enough to learn a lot. But what they need a guy who right now is just a touch guy. Find a way to get him a touch on a reverse, on a quick screen. Let him do the work. Not have the offensive lineman be perfect every time. Just get the ball out quick and let the guy make some yards for you. It'll just help that offense get flowing a ton.
So this next guy that we're going to take a look at from Michigan State, Jaden Reed, 5'11", 191. He will be wearing number 1. A couple of mock drafts that we have looked at this week have him going to the Browns. What do you see with Jaden Reed?
Well, next couple guys, highly competitive guy. Played inside and outside at Michigan State, can run the entire route tree. Super competitive. He's a 4.4 guy, so he's got really good speed. Obviously, he's not slow. I think he works the middle of the field very well. This is a smash combination that they're just going to take the top guy, which is him, in that slot. And he's now, instead of running a corner route, he's going to put his foot in the ground and run a scheme post. He understands coverage. He understands leverage. So he's got to make sure if he's running this post that he doesn't bring that into the backside safety, which he does a great job of here. Very competitive at the point of catch. Again, he's a guy, for me, he's really good at all 3 phases. He releases very well at the catch point, and he's very good run after catch. Again, he's a guy who's a 4.4 guy, which is not slow, but he's football fast. On the football field, he runs by everybody. Subtle movements, subtle attacking the hip, attacking blind spots. Had a great senior week, like I said, Senior Bowl week, and I think he's a guy that's going to be available. Super competitive guy.
Another guy from the Big Ten is next on our list, Parker Washington, 5'10", 215 pounds, again from the Big Ten at Penn State, going to be wearing number 3 in the video we take a look at. What is it you like about him?
Well, he's a little bit different build. So he's a guy that's, you're going to see a play catch a delay slam here against Ohio State, breaks the tackle. So when he gets in the open field on those RPOs, those quickie, he runs like a heavy tailback. He's 215 pounds. He's got a thick lower body. It allows him to break tackles. You're going to see him catch the ball and break a tackle. And then he's got breakaway speed to take it to the house as well. So, again, a guy who's very good at all the short stuff, the guy that can get the ball in space and make yards. He's not an elite speed guy, but he's fast enough, and he runs really heavy. He runs like a tailback with that thick body.
The thing that I saw when you were going through and making your notes, kind of a Jarvis Landry type, which Browns fans will like a lot.
Yeah, he has these last 2 guys have super competitive, almost mean streaks when they play. They almost feel they have a chip on their shoulder when they're playing. And when his guy's playing, he for sure looks like he's got a chip every yard. He fights for every last yard. He blocks very well in space in the run game. He's a great team player. Never heard anything about him, off the field. He's just a good football player.
All right, the final guy that we're going to look at, draft-eligible wide receivers, a little bit of a sleeper as we were talking about. Andre Yosavis, 6'3", 212 from Princeton, so from the Ivy League.
So this guy's an interesting guy. He's 6'3", he's 212. He might be the fastest guy at the combine, or at least be in that running. He's got a tremendous catch radius. One of the knacks would be that he didn't play high-level competition. Well, the competition he played against was very good. Obviously, it's not Power 5 competition, but he dominated at that level. He's super, like I said, he's super long. He's very good at the catch point. For a guy who's 6'3", 212, he plays a lot like a slot. So he lined up about 85% of the time out at Z at Princeton. So he's mostly outside, but he's a guy who can run slot-type routes with his stubness and his quickness. He's very twitchy. For a guy that big, like I said, he's very good at the catch point. He's very good after catch. Again, that speed. All these guys can do some punt returns, some kick returning. Elite speed guys. So these guys are all really, really fast straight ahead. They're all really quick in space. A guy that'll probably be around in later rounds, but a guy who's got tremendous ceiling. He's a guy who's a heptathlete. finished 4th in the country last year in the heptathlon. So he's a guy that's got tremendous talent.
The other thing is every one of these guys seems to do what you and I had talked about, get the easy yards so that you're not constantly fighting. And the other thing is you get behind the chains and then you get the ball to a guy that can eat up some space and you're back on schedule, if you will.
Well, yeah, I guarantee you on Kevin Stefanski's play sheet, he's going to have a thing that says touches. And there's guys that just need touches, whether it be quick screens, RPOs, crossing routes, deep over routes. There's guys who just need touches, and they need some guys, some slot receivers who can do some things for them in space and not make everything so hard and everything so earned. And I think these guys, if Watson gets a guy like a Washington, like a Dell, like a Scott, these guys can all make yards after catch without him having to do a lot.
As always, great stuff, Lance Reisland. Appreciate the time and the insight very much. Thanks, Lance.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Lance Reisland. Make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff with the film breakdowns, cleveland.com, as well as the pages of the Playing Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Randy Gurzi, straight ahead. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. The Browns made it official earlier today. They did, in fact, hire Bubba Ventrone to be their special teams coordinator, assistant head coach as well. Kevin Stefanski, we are thrilled to add Bubba to our coaching staff. Brings a proven track record as both a player and coach in the league. As a player, built a reputation as a top special teamer during his 10-year career. Used that experience to make a successful transition to the sidelines, where his units have routinely performed at a high level. An infectious passion for the game that we are excited about leading our special teams. Let's welcome in Randy Gurzi from Dawg Pound Daily. And Randy, I like that. You need different personalities on a coaching staff, and I think Bubba Ventrone brings a little bit of a different personality to this staff.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's a guy that's been there, done that. You know, he as you pointed out in the announcement there, he was a special teams ace during his career, so he understands the importance of the game, of that facet of the game, how to get it done. And he's had success. I think the biggest thing, too, is the players that have been out there on the field for him absolutely love him. So this was the guy that they targeted from the get-go, and so they went out, they made sure that it happened right away. So I think it was a great get for them.
Yeah, and, you know, the interesting thing, Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter, said he's going to remind older Browns fans, like me, of Bill Cowher. If you get a young Bill Cowher coaching your special teams, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. You like that guy that's kind of got that little bit of a tough approach. I know one of the things about Stefanski that can get under some people's skin is that he's so even keel. So to see somebody with a little passion will probably excite some of the fans a little bit.
All right, this from Dawg Pound Daily. 3 affordable defensive ends the Browns can target in free agency, which will be getting underway. And let's take a look. Number 3, Robert Quinn. Little bit of an older guy. You know, he's not that far away from 18.5 sacks in 2021. Number 2, Anthony Nelson, 2019 draft. Tampa Bay Buccaneers picked him up. You see 6'7", 271 pounds. started to get more involved as it has progressed, would be a guy that's kind of ascending, if you will. And number one, Dante Fowler Jr., that's a guy, was the number 3 overall pick. 2019, he had a big year with 11.5 sacks. It's kind of been all over the place. As you look at those guys, are you of the mindset that they need an elite guy, or are you looking for a rotational guy so you can spread the money that you have over 3 or 4 really, free agents on that defensive line?
Yeah, I think you have to look for that. The bargain guy. You're not going to go and get a Jadeveon Clowney who made $10 million a year. They like Alex Wright. Alex Wright did well as a rookie, but I don't think he's ready to be a full-time starter. My favorite one in that list is Dante Fowler, just because you can still use Alex Wright, get him that experience early on. Dante Fowler doesn't give you a whole lot in the run game, but if you bring him in on third downs, he had 6 sacks last year for Dallas, so he labeled a bust because he was number 3 overall pick and didn't work out there, but he's far from being a bad player. He's had some good seasons. He played really well last year. I think he had over 30 pressures and without starting a single game. So I think he'd be a great fit. As you pointed out, Robert Quinn's a little on the older side, but if you look at the trajectory of his career, whenever he has one of the down seasons, he seems to kind of bounce back. He only had 2 sacks in 2020, had 18.5 in 2021. So he's somebody I think that if he did come in, he'd be affordable. Again, use him in a rotation, and you never know, there's a high ceiling there. But I still like somebody like a Dante Fowler that's a third down pass rushing specialist.
The other thing that I keep going back to, when you hire a guy like Jim Schwartz, you expect some of the younger guys, like a Perion Winfrey, like a Jordan, and you don't know which ones they're going to be. Something will click with 1 or 2 of the young guys, and they will become very useful. That's got to be the hope, I would imagine.
Yeah, and that's why I like the idea of getting a guy that, hey, worst case scenario, if we have to start this guy, we're fine. But the idea is he's not going to start. He's going to be a depth piece, and you're going to hope for one of those players that you mentioned to really kind of step up. And I think Alex Wright is somebody who can do very well under Jim Schwartz, so I'm hopeful that there will be something good there.
All right, this also from Dawg Pound Daily. 4 former Browns free agents who could be brought back in the 2023 offseason. So number 4, Carl Nassib, edge rusher. Number 3 on that list is going to be Larry Ogunjobi, a defensive tackle. Number 2 on the list, Brashawn Perryman, wide receiver. And number 1 is MJ Stewart, defensive back. When you look at those 4, which of those appeal to you the most? Who do you think makes the most sense?
Well, first I would say Carl Nassib got a raw deal. He never should have been cut, in my opinion. That was one of a big mistake that John Dorsey made, so I wouldn't mind seeing him come back. I think he did well when he left. Another one of those guys that's kind of a rotational person. I don't think you'd be starting him, but he can come in and get 4 or 5 sacks a season. But I think out on that list, I really like MJ Stewart. He was a 2nd-round pick for the Bucs, and he didn't really work out as a cornerback. He started to find his niche in Cleveland as more of a safety. He had the interception in the playoff game against Pittsburgh, and he did really well. PFF ranked him 5th overall for safeties last year in Houston, and that's a position of need. So he's somebody that I wouldn't be upset at all to see them bring him back.
When you look at it, the areas of need, in any particular order: edge, defensive tackle, wide receiver, maybe linebacker. Which do you think they need to go out and get free agents because they need pretty much an immediate upgrade?
I think considering you don't have a 1st-round pick, the best idea is really try to get somebody you like at each position. But personally, I think that the first one you need to go after is going to be defensive end. I think you have guys, you have a number 1 and a number 2 wide receiver. You have defensive tackles, Perion Winfrey, Jordan Elliott, that can at least play to a certain level. You know what to expect out of them. And it's the same at safety. You know what you have in Grant Delpit and then John Johnson. You have guys that if you started them, you're comfortable starting them. But at defensive end, outside of Myles Garrett, you're really just banking on Alex Wright. There's really not any depth behind them either, with Chase Winovich also hitting free agency. You only really have Isaiah Thomas, who was a 7th-round pick last year. So I think the most important position for them to really go after is defensive end first.
When you look at safety, do you think Jim Schwartz feels like he can get the most out of John Johnson as a free safety, or do you think he probably is going to be that post June 1 designation and the $9.75 million salary cap relief, and they go find a free safety?
I feel like he might be the salary cap cut. I think that under Jim Schwartz, they might feel like they can get something out of him, but he would have to feel like he's going to get a lot out of him, considering I don't think that they're in cap trouble the way that it seems. You know, they got the $27 million in rollover, and I think that they're going to do something with Deshaun Watson's contract and restructure it some. But to know that you can save $9 million, I mean, that guy's going to have to be a whole lot better than somebody you can get in free agency. And unfortunately, what we saw from John Johnson last year, he didn't show anything that proves he's worth that. So I think he's probably going to end up being a cut.
Randy Gurzi from Dawg Pound Daily and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we will look at the draft class from a season ago, where they sit. We'll also hear from Daniel Jeremiah about a defensive tackle that's been linked to the Browns in the draft. Sports for CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Randy Gurzi from Dawg Pound Daily. This is ESPN's look back at the Browns draft class of 2022. So you remember, third round, they ended up taking Martin Emerson with the 69th overall pick. To this point, the gem of the Browns class. You know, the one thing I would say, Randy, the more I saw of him on the field, the more I wanted to see of him on the field. The question is, can he build on it? You know, he has the physical and the physical tools and is physical at the line of scrimmage, which I think plays into what Jim Schwartz wants from his corners.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how I didn't realize it, but watching him in college, he looked like a good player. You could tell that he had good size, but I don't know if he just had a big summer or something, but he came into training camp and he looked like a linebacker. I mean, he was bigger than the wide receivers that he was facing. He had that huge preseason game where he just ripped the ball out of the wide receiver's hand and ran back for a touchdown and became an instant favorite for the Browns. But he was just, full of confidence too, I think was the big thing. That's huge for defensive backs to be able to have that confidence. And he never went out there with an attitude of being a rookie, being a third-round pick. He went out there with the attitude that I'm going to shut down whoever I'm facing. And you could see him playing with that kind of aggression. And I agree with you. The more you saw him, the more you want to see him out there. I think he was an absolute home run pick. And at first I wasn't too sure about the move. I didn't know a whole lot about him, but I mean, that ended up being one of the better picks that Andrew Berry's ever made.
Yeah, the cornerbacks that the Browns have picked under Andrew Berry have been really good. So let's see what happens in year two. Another guy this guy's intriguing, Alex Wright. You kind of knew that a guy coming from UAB was going to be a little bit of a project. Third round, 78th overall. Again, he flashed, but you'd like to see more. But I think they kind of developed him as a guy to pick. And then also David Bell. Bell was kind of banged up and third round, 99th overall. It didn't seem like he really ever caught up from missing that time in the preseason. So Wright and Bell, when you look at them, what do you see?
Well, I've already you mentioned Alex Wright a couple times today. I was a big fan of his coming out of UAB. It's exactly like you said. You knew he was going to need some time to develop. I thought he did very well as a rookie for what they needed out of him. He held up very well against the run. He was able to swat down a couple of passes at the line of scrimmage in a couple games. So, he made use of the long arms. I think that you have something there. You'd like to see him start winning a little more in the pass rush. I saw they had on that article that he had a 5.8% pass rush win rate. Now that just comes from, needing to learn a little more technique in that department and everything. But I do think he has a whole lot of upside. So he was probably my favorite pick during the draft. And I think you hit the nail on the head with David Bell. Unfortunately, he came in with way too high of expectations. I think people thought he would just jump in and be, a 50, 60 reception guy, but that's usually not the case for a third-round pick, and then especially when you lose a little time early in the season with injuries. But Bell caught just about everything that came his way. He did what he was supposed to do when he was out there on the field, so I think he's going to have a good leap in year two.
Then we're going to look at a couple more of them. So Perrion Winfrey is a guy, again, I think, Browns fans had really high expectations for. As he got a little further into the year, you started to see some of the flash. That's a guy I'm really interested to see what Jim Schwartz can do with him. When I mentioned Schwartz unlocking a guy, this is the guy I'm really interested to see what Jim Schwartz can do. Cade York, he hit the opener, and then, man, it was a struggle. But, again, rookies go through that, even rookie kickers. So let's talk a little bit about Winfrey and Cade York.
Yeah, I agree with you on Winfrey. I was excited about him as well. He was just he didn't bring a lot in run defense, but you saw him winning in the passing game a lot. In college, he had the issues at the beginning of the season. Kind of got called out by Myles Garrett, was disciplined by the coaching staff, and it seemed like he started to put it together at the end of the season. You started to see that athleticism really kind of come through. He was playing more aggressively without, having to sit there and constantly think about the game, letting his athletic traits do the work. So I am also excited to see what he can do under Jim Schwartz. I think that, there is a chance that they may want to bring him in as the starting 3 tech and not bring back somebody like Taven Bryan. So that would be really good to see. As far as Cade York, it was such highs and lows, and it happened real quick where he hits that 58-yarder to beat the Panthers, and you're thinking, hey, here's our kicker, we got our guy. And it seemed like once he got into Cleveland, he just the wind just really messed with him there, and he struggled a lot. Obviously, you can't give up on him after just 1 year, especially with his 4th-round pick, but this year is going to be big for him. We've got to see him try to get that figured out.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. All right, before I let you go, Combine is next week. That's where the draft orders and everybody will be jumbled around, and we will be there Tuesday and Wednesday in Indianapolis at the Draft Combine. In advance of that, Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network talked about a guy that the Browns have been linked to, Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle from Michigan.
When you look at Mozzie Smith, he's up there in my top 50. He's 330-plus pounds. He's got quickness. He can overpower you. I know that, you look at the production, the pass rush production doesn't exist. He's got a half sack in his career, but then you watch him and he's disruptive. So it's more disruption over production, but I do think he's got upside as a rusher, and you can't move him in the run game, and played really well in their biggest game of the year. So he's a good one.
And, Randy, I've said this a couple of times, the way that Myles Garrett forces a quarterback to step up, if your defensive tackles aren't getting beat in one-on-ones, they should have sacks because quarterbacks are going to be forced to run into them. So a guy like Smith, who kind of anchors in the run game and can win those one-on-ones, I love the sound of it.
I do too. And another thing that would really be helpful with a guy like Smith, who he's one of my favorites in this draft as well. I couldn't agree with Daniel Jeremiah more. That's a guy I would love to see them get at pick 42. I think he's also going to take attention away from Myles Garrett, because you're not going to be able to block him one-on-one. He's not just 330 pounds and incredibly powerful, but he's actually very athletic and moves very quick. As Daniel had said, he's very disruptive as well. So you have to pay attention to that if you're on the offensive line. If you have Smith lined up next to Garrett, you're not going to be able to put as much attention on Garrett as you would like to, because you're going to pay for that with Smith pushing your guards around.
Randy Gurzi, Dawg Pound Daily, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Randy.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Randy Gurzi, make sure you check him out, Dawg Pound Daily. Each week, in conjunction with the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program, we recognize a role model student from somewhere in the state of Ohio. We head to St. Edward's High School to meet Cameron Grant. Cameron, star on the Eagles' state-ranked basketball team, also above a 4.5 grade point average in the classroom, and he has some ties to the NBA. Cameron Grant, our Ohio Lottery Partners in Education shining star. At 6'7", 210 pounds, St. Edward's senior Cameron Grant has the look of a Division I college basketball player. Watch him on the court, and there's a focus and intensity that makes Grant stand out.
Playing hard and bringing energy is definitely a top thing that I really try to focus on. And in just doing that, I think it creates a lot of offense and offensive opportunities. And when I do that and we all do that, it kind of creates energy for the team as a whole. And I think that's a big thing in our kind of defense and our motto of just kind of playing hard and getting up into everyone and kind of applying pressure to the defense.
Near the basket, you can tell Grant has a great feel for the game. Good footwork and the ability to finish with either hand.
Nonstop work. Night in, night out, more early mornings, late nights. So I think just kind of all around, I try to get as much as shots, much work down low as I can. So just kind of finishing through contact, I think that's a big thing. Not being soft, make sure you're tough. It's definitely a key thing because as you get higher and you go to the next level, there's bigger guys, stronger guys. So I think finishing and being tough with the ball down low is definitely a key aspect.
What a lot of people don't know about Cam is he's pretty good defensively. I mean, he's got some great length to him. He affects a lot of shots. He moves his feet really well. So he's kind of that sneaky athletic kind of player with his length that poses a lot of problems, especially at this level. And I think that's why he's a Division I type player, because of his body type and the way he's able to move defensively. Offensively, you can shoot the ball at 6'7". He's a good passer, understands the game. So when you put that intelligence along with that skill set, it's a pretty good combination.
One thing that separates Grant from many low post players, he's a 6'7" big guy that can go outside and hit a three-pointer consistently.
I take a lot of pride. I work on it every single night. I'm in the gym shooting a lot, so I get about 300 shots up. So that's definitely something that I take pride in.
His development has caught the eyes of colleges across the country. He'll be headed to Stanford to play his college basketball next season.
That was definitely the dream school. I absolutely love it. I was able to go out there a few days ago, I think last weekend, so it was wonderful. The campus is amazing. The coaches are so nice. So I think just being in that culture and knowing that I'm going to get a great education but also be able to play the sport I love is something that I really want to do.
We talk about a combination type player, which he is. He's also a great combination type kid. I mean, the academics in the classroom, how he handles himself on the court, just the type of person that he is. He's just got a lot of good things going for him, and yet, that's why a school like Stanford came calling.
Academics are obviously important to Cameron. He carries a 4.72 grade point average at St. Ed's with a challenging course load in the school's International Baccalaureate program. The education aspect was one of the main reasons he chose Stanford.
Grades are important. Grades are so important. To me and my family, my dad and my mom, they prioritize it. So every night studying and making sure those grades are keeping up and they've been up, which is good. I think it'll be something probably around business or something in that area, or maybe economics or something like that. But I'm not really sure yet. So they give us 2 years to prepare and make our decision on what I want to study. So I have a little bit of time.
As far as his work ethic and realization of what it takes to be successful in basketball at a high level, Cameron has the perfect sounding board at home. His father, Chris Grant, is former Cavs general manager and a longtime NBA front office executive.
It's kind of cool to see how I view the players through a different lens and kind of everybody else, and just being able to learn from him and him kind of teaching me the ways of knowing what to do and how to prepare myself for the higher level is definitely something that I take pride in. I give it all to my dad, so he's been really helpful.
All you have to do is watch Cameron Grant on the court and off the court, and you can tell he was paying close attention to the lessons being taught by his dad. If you know a student who deserves recognition, we want to hear about them, and you can nominate them completely online. Go to OhioLottery.com, find the About section. click on Partners in Education. There you will see links to nomination forms. Nominate that student as an academic all-star, and they could end up being featured as our next shining star. Cameron and his Eagle teammates are one of the top-ranked teams in the state in Division I as they go through the tournament trail. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Want to remind you, we will be live from Indianapolis, the NFL Scouting Combine, Tuesday and Wednesday next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.